Hello, I'm Brian Rolston. I'm 52 years old, and last week something happened that made me relive that day from 23 years ago. I was sitting in a cafe, sipping my coffee, when a young man approached me. He wore a t-shirt that read, Kosovo Veteran. "Were you there too?" he asked. In that moment, all my memories came flooding back. Kosovo, 1999. That damned winter day. The story I'm about to tell you today is about how one decision changed everything. A day when everything changed for all of us. And if you find yourself thinking, what would I have done in that situation? While listening to this story, believe me, you don't want to know the answer to that question. Before we begin this emotional story, tell me in the comments which city you're watching from today. And if you believe stories like this need to be told, hit that subscribe button to support the channel. These stories matter. They're stories that must not be forgotten. Kosovo, that cold February morning in the winter of 1999. The sun hadn't risen yet. The hills around the base were covered with a white blanket, as if the world was sleeping in silence. But this was a deceptive silence. There was tension in the air, a tangible tension like the vapor that freezes when you breathe. I was 28 years old then, a U.S. Army Staff Sergeant. Together with my team, we had been sent there as part of NATO's peacekeeping force. We were staying at Camp Bondsteel Base, prefab buildings and mud, lots of mud. Every morning when we woke up, we'd smell that foul odor of mixed snow and mud. My team consisted of 7 people. Davis, just 19 years old, a farmer's kid from Iowa. Every morning he'd write letters to his mother while drinking coffee. Johnson from Texas, who'd start every conversation with, "Well, back home." Martinez from Los Angeles, urban but tough. Thompson, a Harvard graduate lieutenant who wanted to do everything by protocol. Williams from Detroit, quiet but reliable. Peterson from Minnesota, who'd look at the snowfall and say, "This is nothing. We get more back home." That morning, February 15th, the air felt different than usual. The wind made strange sounds between the prefab buildings. I had noticed Davis's hands were shaky while drinking his coffee. We all had a strange feeling, as if something was about to happen. When Colonel Harrison called us to the morning briefing, his breath was coming out as vapor. "Today you're going for Kaz Village," he had said. "Routine aid distribution. But remember, there's Serbian activity in the area. You will absolutely remain neutral." We all knew what was hidden behind those words. Stay neutral meant no matter what you see, don't intervene. As we got into our vehicles, it was early morning, but the sky was lead gray. Snow had started falling, thin flakes. Our engine sounds echoed in the valley. Peterson was doing radio checks. Crackling sounds coming from the speaker. "Bravo team, radio check. Lima Charlie, control." In my vehicle were me, Davis, and Johnson. In the second vehicle were Thompson, Williams, Peterson, and Martinez. The road was bad, potholes filled with ice. With every jolt of the vehicle, our equipment rattled. Davis was looking out the window. "Sergeant, why is this village so important?" "Strategic position, Davis. It's a transit point between Serbs and Albanians," Johnson added from behind the wheel. "So whoever controls this place controls a region." As we approached the village, the atmosphere began to change. The first thing we noticed was the smell. A smell. Not wood, something different. Plastic, fabric, and something else. Davis had wrinkled his nose. "What's that smell?" I didn't answer him. I recognized that smell. It was the smell of death. When we arrived at the village entrance, the first thing that caught our attention was the silence. But this wasn't normal village silence. This was the kind of silence when life is suddenly interrupted. No dogs were barking. There were no children's voices, not even bird sounds. Smoke was coming from the chimneys of the houses, but the doors were left open. It was as if people had fled in haste, leaving everything half-finished. There were clotheslines in the street, wet clothes frozen, swaying in the wind. "This doesn't look good at all," said Johnson, parking the vehicle. Thompson reported over radio. Control, we've arrived at the village. Abnormally quiet. Copy, Bravo. Be careful. Conduct routine distribution and return. We parked our vehicles in the village square. There was an old fountain in the center, its water frozen. Around were blood traces, mixed with snow, dark red stains. Davis, while checking his equipment, said, "Sergeant, these blood traces look fresh." He was right. The color of the blood on the snow hadn't darkened yet. As we approached the first house, the door was ajar. A wheezing sound was coming from inside. Peterson approached carefully, keeping his weapon ready. Someone's inside. We went in. An elderly woman was sitting in the corner, her head covered in blood. When she saw us, she recoiled in fear, mumbling something in Albanian. "Ma'am," I said in a soft voice, "American soldiers, help." The woman started crying. She kept pointing to the other side of the village, saying, "Serbit." At that moment, a gunshot came from the other end of the village. A single, sharp shot, then a woman's scream. This sound echoed in the winter air, so that it seemed like the whole world stopped and listened. Thompson grabbed the radio. "Control, gunshots in the village. Instructions, maintain position. Do not engage. Observe and report only." I saw the expression on Davis's face. His jaw was tense. "Sergeant, our orders are clear, Davis." But that scream seemed to hang in the air. The gunshots began to increase. Automatic weapon sounds. Then more screams. This time children's voices were mixed in. Each sound echoed in the snow cover, as if nature itself didn't want to witness this brutality. When we turned the corner of the street, we saw them. 6 Serbian paramilitaries. Camouflage uniforms, heavy weapons, and that cold expression on their faces. They were standing in front of a house. The family they brought out was lined up in the snow. An elderly man, a middle-aged woman, a young mother, and 2 small children. The scene was like a frozen painting. White snow as the ground, dark uniforms, and the colorful clothes on that family. One of the children wore a blue coat, the other a red scarf. Strange, how clearly I remember those details. The elderly man was on his knees, pleading. He was speaking in Serbian, but saying universal things. "Please, leave us alone. We're harmless. The children are innocent." The leader of the paramilitaries, a tall, bearded man, pressed his gun to the elderly man's head. He was smiling, a cold, calculated smile. "Gdi su ostali," he shouted. "Where are the others?" At that moment, time slowed down, as if everything was in slow motion. The fearful eyes of the elderly man, the trembling lips of the children, the helplessness of the women, and the cold contact of that gun barrel against the elderly man's temple. I heard Davis whisper, "No." Thompson grabbed a radio. "Control, Serbian forces engaging civilians. Request permission to intervene. Negative, Bravo. Do not engage." That's an order. At that moment, a film strip started in my head. It was passing quickly. My career, my rank, my future in the Army, my family, marriage plans with Mary, my promotion chances, military retirement benefits. Then that little child's face. Maybe 5 years old, the one in the blue coat. He was looking at me. There was hope in his eyes, as if saying, "You're American, you'll save us." As the leader prepared to pull the trigger, that film strip stopped. A clear, crystal decision. I raised my weapon. "Stop." I shouted in English. The paramilitaries turned to me. They were surprised. "American soldiers," I said. "Step away from the civilians." The leader mocked. "This is not your business, American." "I'm making it my business." Davis looked at me, mixed emotions in his eyes. Thompson was still shouting on the radio. "Control, Sergeant Rolston civilians with weapons pointed. Do not engage. Repeat, do not engage." The leader smiled. "You have no authority here." Then he pulled the trigger on the elderly man's temple. That sound, The red stain spreading on the snow, the children's screams, the women's cries. And I was no longer thinking. I pulled the trigger. The paramilitary leader, shot in the chest, fell to the ground. A second blood stain formed on the snow. The others were surprised, trying to figure out where we were. Contact! I shouted. Take cover. There was no turning back now. Davis didn't hesitate at all. He fired at the second paramilitary. Williams and Peterson also took positions. Johnson got out of the vehicle and started providing suppressive fire. "Americancy!" shouted one of the paramilitaries. The firefight had begun. Blue gunpowder smoke mixed with the falling snow. Gunshots echoed in the valley. Davis, cover the right flank. Rogers, Sergeant. Williams, they're trying to flank from the left. I got it. Thompson was shouting on the radio. Control, troops in contact. Request immediate backup. Bravo team, you were ordered not to engage. Too late for that control. The firefight lasted 5 minutes, but those 5 minutes felt like eternity. The snowfall had intensified. Visibility had decreased. One of the paramilitaries tried to come from behind the house, but Peterson spotted him. Flanking movement, left side. Williams locked onto the target. Got him. Finally, all 6 paramilitaries were neutralized. We didn't take any casualties. The silence that occurred after the firefight was different from the initial silence. This was a silence after a storm. The smell of gunpowder hung in the air. That little child, the one in the blue coat, ran to me. He came stumbling over the bloody snow and hugged my leg. "Thank you," he said in English. "Thank you, American." At that moment, I understood. Whatever I had lost, it was worth it. Thompson grabbed the radio. "Control, area secure. Hostile forces neutralized." The voice from the radio was angry. "Bravo team, you disobeyed direct orders. Return to base immediately." "Copy, Control." We placed the family we had saved in a safe house. They would handle the elderly man's funeral. The young mother was crying while thanking us. The children were still hugging us. As we got into the vehicles, Davis approached me. "Sergeant, what do you think will happen to us?" "I don't know, Davis. But I know this. We did the right thing. But disciplinary action..." "Davis," I said, "I'll protect you and the others." I gave the order to intervene. The responsibility is mine. "But, Sergeant," I saw who opened fire. Davis, I cut him off. In the official report, I opened fire. You just followed orders." "Understood." His eyes welled up. "Sergeant." "Understood." "Yes, Sergeant." On the way back to base, no one spoke during the journey, but we were all thinking the same thing. Our careers were in danger, but those children were alive. When we arrived at the base, Colonel Harrison was waiting for us. His face was red with anger. When he called me to his office, there were files on his desk. I expect an explanation, Sergeant Rolston. "Sir, Serbian paramilitaries were attacking civilians. I had to intervene. You were given clear orders. You were to remain neutral. Sir, children were being killed. That's not your decision to make. You take orders." He slammed his fist on his desk. "Do you realize you disrupted the balance of this operation?" "Sir, I'm responsible." I gave the order to intervene. Harrison looked at the files. According to reports, Specialist Davis fired first. "No, sir." "I did. Ballistics from Davis's weapon." "Sir, I ordered Davis to fire. Legally, the responsibility is mine." Harrison looked at me for a long time. Then he closed the file. "Your staff sergeant rank is suspended. You'll face a disciplinary board." "Understood, sir." "And your team?" "They took orders. They were just following through." That night in the barracks, Davis came to me. "Sergeant, why did you protect me?" "Because you're only 19 years old, Davis. You have a long life ahead of you. But you, I'm already 28. I'm old enough to make this decision. It's not fair. Life isn't fair, son. But sometimes you have to do what's right. At the military tribunal, I was tried for disobedience to orders and violation of operational directives. My staff sergeant rank was taken away. I was demoted to sergeant. A disciplinary violation note was placed in my file. Davis and the others received only warning punishments for following the chain of command. In 2003, my military career ended, but I continued to receive letters from Davis. He got married, had children. He started working in social services. In 2010, a letter came from Prakash. One of those little children had written it. He was now 16 years old, preparing for university. Dear Sergeant, it began, I'm that little child, the one in the blue coat. I'm grown up now. I remember that day every day. You are my hero. When I read that letter, I understood I had made the right decision. In 2019, I returned to Kosovo. There was a monument erected for us in Prakash village. It read, To the brave American soldiers for humanity. That little child was now a teacher. When he spoke with me, he said, Sergeant Rolston, that day you gave me life. Now I'm giving life to other children. That's when I understood. Some decisions can end your career, but some decisions make you truly human. Davis, wherever you are, I want you to know you were right. We did the right thing that day. And those children are now telling this story to their own children. What did this story teach you? Share in the comments. When do you think the hardest decisions need to be made? If you believe stories like this need to be told, don't forget to subscribe, because there are many more stories of forgotten heroes. See you in the next video. And remember, sometimes the greatest victory is won in moments when no one applauds.